Good morning, students of class 10. You are welcome back to the classes now. We are doing history, nationalist movement in Indochina, and today's date is 2nd of June 2021. Now, in our previous class, we have learned about some more 2.1 talking modern, and today we'll continue some more. In our previous class yesterday, we have learned point number 1 to 5. So today we'll start with 6. So let's go back a little bit towards yesterday's class. French citizens living in Vietnam, they were very much worried that once the Vietnamese students get the education, so the French citizens will lose the job. So they oppose the policies of the French government. And the French had to solve a number of problems, or they had to solve or answer number of questions. There was a dilemma: how far the education should be provided to the students, or in which language it should be provided. We have learned in our previous class. Today we will talk about point number 6, 7 up to 12. Point number 6 to 12. Let's go through one by one. Okay? Now pay attention. Number 6. Only the Vietnamese elite. Elite means educated, very important person. Only the Vietnamese elite, comprising a small fraction, as I have already told you before, that only the educated Vietnamese used to send their children to the school. Other Vietnamese who are illiterate, who are not educated, they did not send their children to the new schools built by the French. So only a small fraction of the population who were educated could send their children in the new school, in the new French school. Would send their children to the new school. Now number 7, only a few students among those who were admitted in the new French schools providing modern education, only a few students ultimately passed the school leaving examination. Very few students were passed. They passed the examination, final year. This was largely why number of Vietnamese students failed. Almost 2/3 of the Vietnamese students used to fail. Why was it like this? Were all the students very dull? No, it wasn't like that. This was largely because of a deliberate means by forcefully, deliberate policy of failing the students. Vietnamese students were failed purposely so that they will not qualify for the better paid jobs. That was the policy adopted by the French government. So deliberate policy of failing students, particularly in the final year. They were failed purposely. 2/3 of the students were failed so that they will not qualify for the better paid jobs. Those jobs were reserved for the French citizens. So that was the policy of the French government. This was done by the French so that Vietnamese students could not qualify for the better paid jobs, as I have told you. So in this process of failing deliberately these Vietnamese students, usually 2/3 of the students failed. 2/3 out of 3 students, 2 students failed. Not because they were dull, because that was the policy of the French government so that the better paid jobs could be reserved for the French citizens. So that was the policy. School textbook, not only that, the school textbook in the new modern schools, the French provided modern education to the Vietnamese, especially very few number of Vietnamese. School textbook glorified means praised. The school textbook glorified the French rule and justified. They justified in the book that French rule is necessary in Vietnam in order to modernize. It is justified. They justified colonial rule in the textbook. The Vietnamese were considered as primitive. In the textbook, it was mentioned that Vietnamese people are primitive and backward, capable of manual work. These people are capable. Capable means able to do manual work. They cannot govern themselves. They lack intelligence. They are far below the required intelligence. So, to govern the country. So, they were considered backward, capable of manual labor. So, these type of things were mentioned in the books in their school. They thought Vietnamese could work in the field. The French thought that these Vietnamese are made to work in the field. They could work in the field but not rule themselves. They cannot govern themselves because they are primitive. They lack knowledge. They do not know about modernization. They were skilled copyists. They can copy, but they are not creative. They can copy it out, but they are not creative. This was the idea of the French towards Vietnamese. School children were told in the modern schools providing modern education. In these schools, children were told that only the French rule could bring peace, ensure peace. Ensure means make sure peace, and no longer live in constant fear of pirates. Constant means all the time. They do not have to live in fear all the time. Fear of pirates. Pirates means sea robbers, because Vietnam is bounded by sea on both east and west and south side. So the Vietnamese could no longer live in fear of constant pirates attacks. So because French rule will bring peace there, so it was justified. French rule was justified in the textbook. Now in our next class we will talk about 2.2, looking modern. You see that French adopted various policies to provide modern education. Looking modern means these people, they were dressed in traditional clothes, they had very long hair, so they look ancient, primitive. That's why they considered these people are primitive. So they should also look modern. They cannot come to modern schools providing modern education with their own ancient or traditional clothes or having long hairs and all. They should also look like students. They should look modern. So now let's talk about in our next class 2.2, looking modern. Till then you go through this 2.1, talking modern, read once, twice, so that it will be more clear to you. You can read it out also. Here I have written the points. Nationalist movement in Indochina, we are doing that. And don't miss the classes. If you miss the classes, you will miss a lot of things. So, because each and every, I have already told you, each and every subtitle provide you certain different things. It's not the same continuous things, certain different events, certain different ideas, certain different policies, various things. So you cannot read all at a time. You have to read part by part so that it becomes clear to you. Then in the end you will understand the whole chapter. So that's the lesson for today. We'll meet in the next class and continue our lesson. Thank you very much for your watching. Don't waste your time at home. Read, write, learn. Whatever is being provided, you learn, practice at home. If you have missed, you get it from your friends. So that's all. You contact your friends, have in contact with your friends and get it. So that's all for today. Thank you very much. Later on I'll provide some more questions or whatever it is, materials I'll provide. So that's all for today. Thank you very much.